All right, guys, F1, my favorite movie of the year so far. Let's talk about it. So I finally saw this movie last night, and just as I expected, this is my favorite movie of the year so far. I really, really love this movie. Not a perfect movie, not on the level of Top Gun Maverick. I compare it because they have the same director, but a really, really strong movie. Good performances, great action. The standout for me is Javier Bardem, but just a really, really great summer blockbuster movie. I just think it's the perfect concept. A great choice by Brad Pitt and really every actor in this cast, Damson Idris, Javier Bardem, and everyone else to be in this movie. The director Joseph Kosinski, who made Top Gun Maverick, pretty much did the same thing. He put the camera inside the cars, just like he did with the planes in Top Gun. I don't know if Brad Pitt and Damson Idris did as much driving. I know they definitely did driving. I don't know to what extent. And again, I don't know anything about F1, and really nothing about these types of cars, so I can't really tell you how accurate it is. But it was very, very entertaining. I really, really loved the racing scenes. I really, really loved all the car stuff. All of the pit, all the pit crew stuff is really cool. All of the communication with the team is really cool. Just learning about the basics of F1 is really cool. So as an outsider, I really, really enjoyed that part. I think this movie, I guess one criticism is it's missing a little bit of something in terms of just getting it to the next level. For me, this is like a B plus movie, maybe even an A minus. For me, it's like a B plus, or maybe an A minus, but it's not like an A plus. I don't think the plot is deep enough. I don't think there's really there is a scene in this movie, which I'll get into in spoilers, which has a lot of tension, which they could have turned it into a certain type of movie then, which they chose not to. I think it was a good decision to kind of not turn it that way and kind of keep it a happier ending. But with that being said, I think the script could have been a little bit better. I don't think it's Brad Pitt's best performance. A lot of people are comparing it to Moneyball. I think he does a much better job in Moneyball. So certainly not like an Academy Award nominee performance, although I think he is the right guy for this role. People talk about Tom Cruise. I don't think he was in Days of Thunder, but I think, at this age, I think Brad Pitt is way more suited for this role. Like I said, Javier Bardem for me was the standout of this movie. He's great. Really, I think someone who should be considered more when you talk about the best movie stars in the world. I'm sure there's a bunch of projects I've missed, but obviously he was in No Country for Old Men, and then he's been in Dune lately, and now this. So he's certainly been in big projects, but I feel like he doesn't get the recognition he deserves, probably because he's not American, and English isn't his first language, although he does speak it very well, and he just adds a great presence to this movie. Because that part could have just been any actor, but the fact that they got an actor that big to play his part, which is essentially the owner of the team, I think added a lot to this movie. Okay, now I will be going into spoilers, so if you do not want the movie spoiled, do not move forward. So Brad Pitt plays, I guess he's driving, I think it's Le Mans cars in the beginning, but basically he's a racer who has bounced around in smaller circuits. He was in a bad accident earlier in his career when he was a Formula One prospect, and he gets an offer from Javier Bardem, who owns the team, to basically join the last place F1 team, which is Mercedes. And Damson Idris is kind of the main guy on the team. He's young and up and coming. He's very talented, but he hasn't won anything yet. And this is kind of the interesting part, is you could be a really, really good driver, but a lot has to do with how good your car is, how good your team is. And I think that's a really cool part about the sport. It's kind of like a cool mix of, like, you have to be a good athlete, actually very strong. In steering the wheel, there's a ton of pressure on your neck, so you really have to have strength, endurance. These races are very long. You have to be mentally tough to handle the pressure. You can literally die at any second or go flipping in the air. So just really, really cool. And then all of the, obviously, engineering that you do with the car, I think is really, really interesting. Certainly stuff I don't know anything about. And then they also went really, really deep into tires, which I guess is the most relatable thing. I literally just put new tires on my car last week or 2 weeks ago. So it was somewhat, at least, the most relatable thing to me. But, just really good stuff all around. Another lesson of this movie, I think, is just how important movie theaters are. I'm the biggest supporter of movie theaters that you'll ever meet. This was made by Apple. They could have stuck it on Apple Plus, like the Clooney movie with Brad Pitt. I think Wolves, which was a pretty good movie. But obviously, a movie like this is different because so much of it is with cars. You need the sound, but I think it's just another lesson that blockbuster movies and movie stars belong in the movie theater. Stop putting these movies on streaming. Movies like this have to be in the movie theater. I thought Damson Idris did a really good job. I never watched Snowfall, but I know that's what a lot of people know him from. He's been heavily rumored to be the Black Panther. I think he'd be a great pick. I could totally see him in the Black Panther suit playing that character. I also really like that they just let him keep his natural British accent and didn't force him to do an American accent, which they seem to do a lot. So I think that was a good decision. And yeah, I think him and Brad Pitt were just, it's kind of very meta because they played a lot of who they are in the movie is really who they are in real life. Like Brad Pitt is kind of like an old timer, but still is talented like he is in real life. And Damson Idris is someone who hasn't had a ton of success yet, but is very up and coming and very talented, similar to how he is in real life. So I think the movie was casted well. Like I said, I don't think Tom Cruise or another actor would have been right. I think Brad Pitt was perfect for this role. The scene I was talking about that I think the movie takes a turn is there's a scene where Damson Idris crashes, and I think this is the best scene in the movie. It's really dramatic. The scene slows down. It's kind of quiet. You could feel the tension in the movie theater. But not the problem, but he obviously survived the crash. He had some burns and he recovered. It caused some tension because then Brad Pitt started to win. But if they killed his character there, I think you add a lot. If you were like going for an Oscar type movie, I think you make that decision. Obviously, you keep him alive. You have a happy ending. And at the end of this movie, pretty much their team wins their first race, which I think also is realistic because they didn't win like the entire thing. They just won this one Grand Prix, but was still pretty cool and a pretty cool ending. Overall, like I said, this is my favorite movie of the year. I think it takes over Sinners, which is obviously a totally different movie than this. It's apples and oranges. It doesn't really need to be a competition, but just in terms of ranking, I think I'm going to put this number one. I think it has more rewatchability, and I just preferred this genre, so I think this is one, Sinners 2, and honestly, I think there's a pretty big gap after that. I haven't really loved a lot of what I've seen this year. But that's my review of F1, a great movie. I'd love to see a sequel. Tom Cruise with Brad Pitt in a sequel, I would love to see. I think they can make a ton of these. I think, I would. The only critique is the length of the movie. 2 hours, 35 minutes. I would have shaved off, I don't want to say 30 minutes. I would have shaved off 15. I think it was a little bit long. But other than that, no real complaints. Thanks, guys, for watching. Please subscribe if you've gotten this far. I really appreciate it. And as always, I'll see you at the movies.